No one ever forgets the first time the dark moves. Not when the blackness isn't empty, but watching. Captain Elara Voss stood at the helm of the Vigilant Star, her pale knuckles gripping the command rail as the ship drifted silently near the edge of Sector Veil 7. Outside, space folded like ink spilling over shattered glass. Stars bled light, fading unnaturally into the void. The scanners showed nothing, yet they all knew something was there. The Seventh Orion War hadn't started with guns or politics. It started with silence, ships vanishing without distress signals, colonies reduced to cold rocks without a trace of battle. No survivors, no debris, just darkness. The first time Elara saw it, she'd been a lieutenant on the UN Pathfinder, a science frigate studying the gravitational anomalies near the Drell system. They'd encountered something, a shifting mass of utter blackness that defied logic. Instruments malfunctioned, lights dimmed. The ship lost contact with command for 6.2 minutes. When they regained the feed, half the crew was gone, including her younger brother. Now, 10 years later, she hunted the same fear. Except this time it had a name, the Orpheans, a term whispered by the few who'd seen the dark and lived. Not aliens in the traditional sense. No vessels, no language, just the darkness that crept across sectors like a cancer, consuming light, knowledge, memory. People didn't just die. They were forgotten, erased. Captain, we have proximity interference. No heat signatures, no impulses. But Commander Joran's voice cracked. There's a feeling. Elara turned to the viewport, where only darkness stared back. Red alert. Power down all non-essential systems. Go dark. Lights dimmed to emergency red. The hum of the engines faded, leaving an eerie silence. The crew knew the drill: low activity, no emissions, no communication. The Orpheans didn't hunt by sight or sound. They sensed thought, fear, tension. Elara had spent the last decade studying their patterns, seeking the origin of their existence. What she discovered had shattered her understanding of physics and humanity. The Orpheans weren't beings. They were anti-being, the absence of life incarnate. They didn't want resources, power, or territory. They wanted presence extinguished. No history, no future, just void. The Seventh Orion War was never a war in the traditional sense. There were no peace talks, no demands. It was a war of existence versus non-existence. And humanity was losing. "Captain," whispered a voice from the shadows. "Lieutenant Kale, the ship's xenolinguist. I've translated the signals from the anomaly on Astra 9. I think it was a warning from the Asterians before they vanished." He handed her a data pad. On it, symbols etched in fractal patterns, shifted and twisted in recursive loops. Words formed only when one didn't look directly at them. The dark remembers. The dark unwrites. Comes when we forget the stars. Elara felt the chill in her spine. Asterians had been among the most advanced species in the galaxy. Now, they existed only in footnotes, barely a whisper in galactic archives. They had been the first to encounter the Orpheans, and the first to fall. But the message hinted at something deeper, that the dark could be resisted, not with firepower, but with memory, with light, not light of stars, but of stories, of names, of shared moments. "Captain," Joran whispered again, "we have movement." On the edge of the viewport, space wavered. Not a ship, not even a shadow, just distortion like glass melting in reverse. The crew held their breath. Instruments failed. Clocks froze. And then, the lights flickered. "No thoughts," Elara commanded softly. "Do not think about them." That was the rule. You couldn't fight the dark, but you could ignore it. Thinking of them gave them form. Awareness was their gateway. They preyed on fear, on the mind's insistence that something was out there. And when you named them, they came. Still, the flickers persisted. Crew members clutched each other in silence. Somewhere below deck, someone sobbed quietly. Elara stood unmoving, every nerve screaming to run, to fight. But she knew better. Action meant attention. Attention meant death. "I have a memory anchor ready," Kale whispered. "A broadcast. A message into the void. It might push them back. It might draw them closer," Joran countered. "Or it might remind us who we are," Elara said. The ship's core hummed softly as the message uploaded. A simple signal loop of human voices, reading poetry, singing lullabies, sharing stories. It wasn't meant for the enemy. It was meant for them, to remind them of light, of presence, of being. The transmission began. A child's voice echoed through the ship. "Once upon a time, we looked at the stars and dreamed of going there. We built ships. We flew. We learned. We remembered." The distortion outside rippled violently. A screech, not of sound but of thought, invaded their minds. Visions of nothingness, of time unwritten, of Earth, quiet and dark, as if it had never existed. "Stay with me," Elara said firmly. "Anchor yourselves." She grabbed Kale's hand. Joran took the other. One by one, the crew connected, hand in hand, forming a chain of shared memory. Whispered stories, fragments of lives once lived. "My mother used to bake cinnamon bread every Sunday," Kale whispered. "I named my dog Apollo after the moon missions," Joran added. "I watched the sun rise over Olympus Mons once," Elara said. "With my brother. He called it a lazy Martian pancake." The void twisted, as if recoiling from their words. Light flickered back, faint and uncertain. And then, the blackness outside blinked. Not faded, not moved, blinked, as if it were watching. Elara felt her heart skip. The Orpheans had never responded to anything before. But now, they hesitated. Maybe they were changing, or maybe they were learning. The ship vibrated violently. Sirens wailed. Systems rebooted uncontrollably. Then silence returned. The darkness was gone. Just like that, stars reappeared. Instruments stabilized. The Vigilant Star floated, battered but intact. But something had changed. Kale stared at the datapad. "Captain, look." The fractal symbols had reformed. New patterns emerged. "You spoke the light. You remembered. We remember." Elara's pulse raced. The Orpheans had responded. Not in violence, not in erasure, but in acknowledgement. They weren't just destroying. They were reacting. To presence, to fear, to memory. The war wasn't just survival. It was a dialogue, a test. "Prepare a new message," Elara ordered. "All frequencies, not just human. Every language we know, every memory." They had thought the dark wanted nothing. But maybe it wanted to be known. Or maybe it feared being alone. Weeks passed. Then months. More ships joined the experiment. More broadcasts, more stories, more shared thoughts. The darkness slowed. The erasures stopped. Then, in the heart of Veil 7, a light appeared. Not artificial. Not from any known star. A pulse of blue and violet, like a breath from the void. Kale called it the memory star. Others called it the echo. Some believed it was the first Orphean, changed by the voices it consumed, now trying to speak back. The war did not end in fire. It ended in a whisper, in remembering. But even as peace returned, Elara knew the darkness still waited. It always would. Because fear never truly dies. It hides in the corners of thought, in the spaces between stars. And sometimes it listens, She stared at the memory star from her cabin, recording her final log. We feared the dark because we believed it was empty. We were wrong. It is full of echoes, full of watchers, and now full of us. She paused, letting silence fill the space. We are not alone in the dark. We never were. And perhaps she thought the Orpheans feared them just as much. Because light doesn't erase darkness. It only reveals it.